Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the desk. Here we are in Alpharetta, Georgia. We've got another European game coming to you, and it's going to be Team Dignitas versus JusTus. I am F. And he is Hindu Man, and we're going to bring the game live to you today.
We are, and honestly, it's sort of a battle for the bottom for the most part. Dignitas, though, making that climb slowly but surely up the rankings. JusTus, though, find themselves at the bottom so far at 2-12, which isn't the place they would like to have been. And I believe for game one, they're going to be using a sub as well in Covertactican in the jungle.
Right, we're going to see Covertactican come in. It's going to be one of his first SPL games ever, so it'll be very interesting to see how JusTus does with this new player coming in, stepping in. Of course, just as a substitute, jungler not able to really make it, so we're going to see that swap right there.
Yeah, they're going to actually see Xephyr move into the solo lane, actually, because they weren't able to get the solo lane. I saw it, Mr. Crunchy. There's a room where he's stepped down for competitive play, but they've not really announced their official solo laner just yet, so we've not got an update on that. But Zephyr's going to move into the solo lane for this first game, and Covertactican in the jungle up against a Dignitas team that, let's be honest, they're on a really good streak right now.
Yeah, Variety has really turned things up in the recent weeks, coming in and playing very, very strongly. The rest of the team as well has been doing very well, very good, and Shadownightmare probably the focal point of this team.
The whole team as a whole has been doing well. I mean, they defeated LC 2-0, and then they went on to defeat Titan 2-0 as well. This is an important game for them, though, because next week they have to face off against Epsilon and then Fnatic. That's not going to be an easy week for these boys. So getting a win against JusTus here, very important to make sure they create more of a buffer at the bottom.
Exactly. We just saw Epsilon and Fnatic, and if you guys missed that, don't worry, you'll be able to catch the VOD a little bit later, but it was an extremely volatile matchup, two of the stronger teams, so going up against those guys will be tough. But right now, it's JusTus who will be the opponent for Dignitas, and that's the game at hand as we get into picks and bans here. Team Dignitas on the left with your first pick.
Now, the first thing to talk about is Kulkulkan. We've seen it a couple of times being picked. Shadownightmare tweeted out after the last games going, been ruining your ranked games since 1997 is what he tweeted, because now he believes everyone's going to be playing Kulkulkan in the mid lane, and a lot of people on Kulkulkan, they have positioning problems. Shadownightmare was not one of them.
Exactly. Shadownightmare actually creates positioning problems for the opponent by putting tornadoes down and really making it haphazard to walk through really anywhere he doesn't want you to go through. Pretty standard bans coming out here as far as Europe is concerned. No healers as far as Hell and Khepri. Sun Wukong just a little bit too strong with Bluestone for JusTus, and Serket going to be banned out by Dignitas.
Pretty much standard bans from both teams there. Aphrodite left on the table, though, and we've seen a lot of bans over in EU towards Aphrodite as of late. We do know Variety can play it in the solo lane, but Thor definitely one of the priorities, as you can see, locked in for FrostiaK in the jungle.
And not just a priority for Team Dignitas, but a priority for Smite in general. Thor is generally the vanilla jungler. He can deal early game ganks, he can control later in the game, can do really whatever role you want him to do, and is kind of a perfect jungler with that semi-global ultimate to surprise whoever he wants to gank. So Thor, not necessarily a first pick as far as meta is concerned, but never a pick that you look at and go, bad choice.
Well, they did leave Janus on the table, though, and chose that. They chose, the Thor over the Janus. Janus going to go through to JusTus now. He played it quite a few games this season. Not the best win ratio, though, for him. But to be fair, when you're 2-12, most of the gods you're going to pick, they're not going to have the best win ratio. Same for Sylvanus as well.
Speaking of win ratio, Dignitas have a couple of flashy picks that really keep their win ratio up. But when we see Freya come out for iRens as he locks it in right now, this character really hasn't lost a game for Team Dignitas.
Freya and Kulkulkan have been their big two go-tos, but another thing to note there, that Athena pickup for Frezzy. And Frezzy's been playing a lot of that just lately, and it's worked out well for him. This composition from Dignitas seems a sort of a rinse-repeat of last time round. I expect to see a Kulkulkan ban here.
Yeah, I was wondering.
It sounds really strange to say, but they should.
I was wondering about that, and we will see the Kukulkan ban from JusTus,
good call.
Which is interesting because a lot of what makes Kukulkan work for Team Dignitas is partly the zoning that comes from the tornadoes, but more about it is really the loop into the ultimates or the taunts into the ultimates.
Setups.
Exactly. Something that can be replicated with other burst mages. Poseidon, obviously very powerful and very popular, but there are other burst mages that can do that setup into large bombs.
But it's also because of the Gold Fury control that brings
exactly.
too, right? So they take away that Gold Fury control. Poseidon, yeah, he can do the same sort of thing with a Kraken, but you can A just that. B, there's a couple of ways to avoid it a lot easier. But C, it doesn't do as much or as effective against a Gold Fury.
We'll take a look. Maybe we'll see a Vulcan if Team Dignitas really are adamant about these objective securing mages. Bellona being locked in for Team JusTus, most likely going to find herself in the solo lane, but of course can be used as a very proficient jungler.
And that's the funny thing here. We know they're using a substitute for game one. Covertactican, he's a young lad from England. He's not played competitive Smite at this level before, but he's only 16, 17 years. Actually, I think he's 15, 16 years old right now. So he's only very young, and I know he suffers from nerves. So he's going to be very careful in this one. They're probably protecting him with these last 2 picks.
Now, Ice is selected for Team Dignitas. This is one of my personal favorite mages when it comes to objective securing, because you don't have the straight, I don't know, the battering ram that is the Kukulkan ultimate or the Vulcan ultimate or the Poseidon ultimate, just large burst damage to finish things up. Isis's Circle of Protection, of course, can and will bring burst damage, but more importantly, it also deters the enemy from getting in that area anyway. So, gotta watch out for that as far as objective secure. And Geb and Sylvanus, 2 Guardians that are largely considered strictly Guardians.
Now, I'm pretty sure we've seen the Sylvanus go into the solo lane then. We've seen it from
Ataraxia.
Yeah, so
to be fair, we've seen Geb out of Omega as well. And Covertactican, in his very first SPL scratch stat competitive Smite game ever, will be playing.
I was told he was going jungle, but clearly he's not. He is going to be in the solo lane for this team this time around. They're going to put Xephyr in the jungle. My misinformation, I do apologize.
This is very, very interesting to me. Qiwen forced to blink right away to get out of some trouble. Covertactican, in his very first competitive Smite game, will be throwing out the interesting, spicy Sylvanus solo.
Well, we'll see how it works out for him, because it's not going to be... It's not going to be the easiest lane to go up against in a Guan Yu. Guan Yu going to be able to sustain very well. And don't forget Conviction, it gives you the heal. The passive now gives you the heal off attacks you do and attacks you receive. So he's going to be very sustaining matchup between the two there for the most part. One thing to note though, beginning of the game, Dignitas knew that Qiwen always did that path quite clearly. They tried to cut him off on that. They forced his blink, which is a very long cooldown right now, but it won't be too impactful. The bigger impactful thing, he took rollout to get away as well. Taking rollout at the beginning of the game, it can hurt a little bit, and getting the shield online for level 2, which should like awesome wave clear as well.
And we'll see the impact of that right here. We'll see how Qiwen elects to clear these camps. If you roll out from afar, go up against a wall, you can really get some damage out. And that's exactly what we'll see. So he will use the rollout for some damage to clear that buff. But yes, rather unfortunate that he gets the movement ability instead of the knockup that we usually see with Shockwave.
But if Dignitas realize that in the duo lane, they can try and punish him, because he won't be able to go for shield at level 2, which he could do for a defensive option. Instead, he's only going to have rollout on the Shockwave, which means if they look for the aggression onto Apollo, which, to be fair, Freya has a very good matchup against Apollo for the most part, they can look to punish this lane.
Shadownightmare gets poked out just a little bit, but his friend Thor is right around the corner, so no real aggression coming out from the guys onto JusTus, understanding that the threat of Thor was looming just around the block. Covertactican, as we said, really no surprise. Sylvanus is going to have trouble early on. You can see he's building into that Telkine's ring that'll really help out his AoE basic attacks early on, and that's generally the gist of this lane.
But he's not really worried about the aggression either. He can just use wisps and sustain back up.
Exactly.
Duo lane once again pushed up under the tower. Freya and Athena keeping them pinned back here.
Aggression coming out from the guys onto Team Dignitas. Shadownightmare utilizes the extreme push of Isis. Wing Gust is one of the more damaging abilities early on to clear the wave, and with that, clears the wave right away and takes that extra time to instead invade back Harpies rather than go for his own.
And that's why we start to see this Bellona drop off as well, because to be fair, the jungle clear, it's not bad, but it's not the best thing in the world, honestly, to be able to clear the jungle out. And gank potential, well, it's not really the best gank either. I mean, the bludgeon, you've got to get lucky and try and get 2 targets for the extra damage more than anything else. Other than the Eagles rally, so you've got to be very, very careful. But big rotation to the left, looking at Frezzie, who was a little bit deep there. He was placing a ward for the most part. Well, hang on, good banish coming out as well from Rens, but with that banish being on cooldown, they're still looking for more.
The hammer's going to miss, but banish is on cooldown, as you said, and that's before level 5. That's Freya's only method of escape, unless you want to count the slow that comes out from Pulse. And that's really more of an aggression move.
It was good pressure, but at the same time, he should be able to heal back up. Nice Spirit Ball in mid lane from Shadownightmare. Didn't do as much as he would have liked, though. But those in hands, well, they do chunk on Isis and are very underestimated.
Don't forget, Isis has the attack swing chain in the sense that with every third hit you see when she uses both of those wings, it'll actually do more damage and be AoE. So able to hit more than one target with those basics is very strong. Throwing out the Spirit Ball just a little bit, that will confirm some extra damage onto the wave.
Right hand side though, they are focusing Covertactican. The sub is in, and the sub is down. First blood goes over to FrostiaK.
And a lot of that has to do with, not necessarily the pick, but just the fact that Team Dignitas is going to play this smartly. We talk about the game surrounding the game, the actual meta, if you will, and the substitute. Not just the substitute, but the rookie substitute. It's known that this is Covertactican's first SPL game, and while he is an accomplished and talked about player in general when it comes to Smite, the SPL stage is very different from any ranked games or amateur tournaments that you might have been entered into.
Completely true, and when you actually come into these games, you can get nerves sometimes too. So if you die first blood as well, it's like, oh god, no, this is terrible. Oh, I'm feeding my team, you know. It can put that stuff in your mind and trying to abuse that. You can see where FrostiaK now is. He's around the Cold Fury, so the Fire Giant again. He's looking to pressure him one more time. He's still only he has lit at level 5 though, but you can see FrostiaK really wants to go aggressive one more. I steal away the blue buff.
Yeah, stealing away the blue buff will impact Covertactican a lot. The mana on the Guardian is rather intensive. So the blue buff,
it can be, but he's using in-hands for the most part with the build that he's gone for here.
Telkine's Ring.
He should be okay.
Telkine's Ring is an interesting item. It is strictly early game because the additional damage that goes on your basics, it just never scales.
It doesn't, but at the same time, you get decent wave clear because it is AoE as well, so it's not the worst thing in the world.
No, I actually enjoy this. I think this is
one
the
second.
Way to go if you're going to opt for this. Wall, just a hair too late from FrostiaK. So Janus able to ult out of there, no problem.
But they did get an ultimate for free, which means if FrostiaK has this ultimate available, he should be looking to try and pick up Fexez again in the mid lane, look for another opportunity to camp. But it looks like they're actually going to swing round into the jungle once again. They're looking to try and find a pick here, or at least a speed buff.
Team Dignitas has been very excited to walk into their enemy's jungle. This is the third separate time we've seen the blue squad walk into JusTus's jungle and take things away. At the first minute, we saw the back harpy invade, then we saw the blue buff taken away from Covertactican, and then finally the buff we just saw get taken.
This is like night and day between Dignitas' first half of the split and second half of the split. This is not what we saw out of these guys. Go right back to the beginning of the split. They lost their first 4 games before finding a win, then they lost another 4 games before finding a win. And then, you know, Xephyr came out and they lost a couple more games, but now the second split's hit. And look at the record they've had. 2 O's in a row, and now they're against JusTus and looking very good again.
Yeah, and as we said, as we usually say, 2 separate post-game interviews from 2 separate players on this team for Team Dignitas, and both players have really mentioned since the announcement that the Super Regionals will be expanded, it's sort of given a new breath of life into this team. There's hope and there's excitement, and it's no longer just going through the motions. Not to say that they did, but it almost seemed that way from the way the team was losing. And now Team Dignitas really dialing up, and we're seeing this next level play come out from them.
FrostiaK still continuing to sit on this right-hand side of the map because his Xephyr has come over to clear out that blue buff camp finally. As Shadownightmare drops the red buff with the help of FrezzOO there as well, just to share the experience. But so far, so good for Dignitas. He's not been high-paced at the moment, but what it has been controlling, ganking mid.
Turning things around for JusTus. Blink in and initiate is strong, but Thor able to find a way out with the hammer. Just takes a little bit of health damage from the hit.
Wall was not the best in the world, but the cavalry charge still going in from Variety, very deep to find the stun. A little bit of damage on it. Took more than he wanted to, but he'll use the conviction, heal up his teammates, and wander back to mid. It was a counter engage from Dig That Mon there.
Variety a little ahead of his team there. I mean, the horse does go really fast, but Team Dignitas just didn't look like they got the memo. This time around, they certainly did, and Shadownightmare takes 2 to the head and takes it for himself. Qiwen going to be in some trouble as well. Shadownightmare can't quite follow up, but he can throw the spirit ball from afar. A triple kill for the mid laner on Team Dignitas.
And that's something that Dignitas are doing this second half that is so much better. They got initiated on, they escaped, they reinitiated, changed their mind, backed off, and you thought that was the end of it. No! They kept their ultimates, they used them wisely. Good blink initiation from FrezzOO, and FrostiaK comes down from the jungle, triple kill to Shadow, and that's just going to accelerate him now to getting this Isis to a dangerous level.
I mean, Isis is level 10 comparatively speaking to Janus, who's level 8. That's just a very strong way to look at things when you're 7 minutes in. So Shadownightmare doesn't quite need the Kukulkan to put on a show here as he collects a triple kill for his first 3 of the game.
There's just so many things about Dig that are going better than they were the first half of the split. I know I keep saying that, but FrostiaK, he's playing better in the jungle. He's finding the ults. A lot of times so far in the first half of the split, he wasn't finding the dunks on Thor. FrezzOO, he actually looks like FrezzOO evolved from the Mortality days where he's going aggressive and he's finding the plays. This Athena's working out for him.
Exactly, and it's important for me to drive home that Shadownightmare has been the consistent player on this team.
Completely
I think
agreed.
that even when Team Dignitas wasn't looking at sunny days, Shadownightmare was turning up, and his team recently has joined him. JusTus going to take a look at the Gold Fury. Already down to 50% HP. The only one available is iRens. He's going to come in with the Athena ult. But the Gold Fury is already dead. Lift is off the mark, and JusTus splits up, spreads out, and Team Dignitas gives up the Gold Fury.
Right side, though, Covertactican in trouble again against FrostiaK. If he's got a double tap available, it will be up in a second, but there comes a horsey! Bring down the tree!
Right, he gets credit for that, and FrostiaK forced to ultimate because the response from JusTus is 2 men deep. No initiation coming out from the Thor, but here comes the rest of Team Dignitas. There's a slow, there's a stun, there's a hammer! FrostiaK gets credit for 1, and Team Dignitas have 4 on the right side. Will they look for the tower? Looks like yes.
They're going to put the pressure on. You can see Fexez has to back away here. Geb not going to be able to rotate over for this. Tier 1 tower will fall down. And the funny thing is, JusTus there made a very good play at the Gold Fury. They abused the situation of realizing Dignitas had all backed. They get an opportunity, but Dignitas do the right thing.
It's very funny. Usually the classic example is the solo laner gets ganked, there's too many people on the right side map, and so the Gold Fury gets taken for free. We call that, I mean, to say that's textbook is almost more advanced than it needs to be. Blinking from Qiwen. Variety in some trouble, but Covertactican turns things around. There's a second ultimate to try and disrupt things. Over the top comes Apollo. He's here on the right side of the map. 1 kill going the way of Shadownightmare. JusTus are on the board twice now as VoteNBK takes out a jungler, but a good turnaround stun separates Shadownightmare just a little bit. There's 4 members chasing. 3 get taunted. It's just Xephyr on top. He'll take down Shadownightmare. And 3 kills for JusTus in that last engagement. They're finally on the board. And do it by way of 3.
That was actually a lot better from JusTus than they expected. When I first saw Qiwen blinking and Cataclysm, I was like, there's nobody there. Fexez had just used Unstable Vortex, so he didn't have any follow-up damage. But in the mid lane now, Rens with this Freya, when he's looking to put damage out, beads early to avoid the Mez. Going to try for the Valkyrie's discretion. He's not going to find the damage to kill Fexez, and now he's surrounded and in trouble.
Covertactican pull almost off. They're going to get the kill anyway, it looks like. VoteNBK will pick it up, but miscommunication there. Covertactican pulled Rens out of the bludgeon damage.
But what he did do is interrupt the pulse as well, which was dealing damage, and he's back off as well. Take into account he had Fatalis, so if he can land those pulses, he can keep backing away. So I think the pull was the right sort of call to try and do, even though they avoided a bit of damage there. Big key, though, JusTus winning these team fights. They're starting to get back.
Exactly. Very important swing for JusTus, because as we were saying, we normally see heavy on the soul inside, get a free Gold Fury. Well, JusTus commit to the Gold Fury, and Team Dignitas do the opposite. They realize that they're heavy on the left side. It should work the same, and Team Dignitas go and aggress on the right side. JusTus respond, though, and that's the key. JusTus responded, they counter-initiated, and previously they had 0 kills. Now they've got 4, and the distance between these 2 teams is all but 1,000.
Oh, Fexez ate a lot of poke there as well. Did manage to get through the portal, but panic thinking FrostiaK was still coming. Wise decision to use the through space and time, but he's now on cooldown, and the pressure from Dignitas is back on again. They're looking for the mid-tower.
And that's the thing with Janus. You can't really hide the used ultimate. Sometimes when your ultimate gets forced out and you're on your side of the jungle, or there's trees in the way, or a rock, you can sort of juke, you can fake, you can put a poker face on.
A, you can hear it.
Exactly.
B, you can see multiple portals on the map.
That's the key. You can't hide it. It is impossible to hide. So Team Dignitas know that the Janus ultimate is not available.
Nice attempts in the jump for the pick. Xephyr actually has to beads, though. The shield did come out from Qiwen, but there was no reliability between the two, which forced it. Now Zephyr's going back in here. He needs to be a bit careful because he's not got beads this time.
Not quite. He'll get stunned and double tapped, and that'll do a lot more damage than I think he anticipated early in this game. The only defensive item on the Bellona is the heavy hammer, so it's a decent amount of health. But that's about it.
Can we check in with Thor for a second, played by FrostiaK? I just want to see if he's maxing hammer again on this Thor. Nope, left-hand side, we're going to see a taunt and an instant shield from VoteNBK. And that's all going to go to waste. But back to FrostiaK now. You can see, yes, well, he's maxed hammer already because he's the right level. I'd twice even maxed it a little bit earlier. But Shadownightmare under pressure again. Going to get full wombo there, but the circle of protection will protect him for a little while. Good heal at the right time. He will fall, but it's a 1-for-1 so far.
Variety going to continue the engagement. Portal let up for Covertactican, but he walks away from it, and then he gets blocked out of the way. FrostiaK with credit for that one. Team Dignitas going to go underneath the tier 2 tower here on the right-hand side. Here's the rotation coming out from Geb. He throws the shield onto his Janus, and now they're looking for the offensive. Stunning out Variety. The ultimate will just miss because of the quick dash, quick reaction time from Guan.
Nice escape coming out from Dignitas again. They're winning these engagements. 2-for-1 engagement there again. And Ren's over in this left-hand side, but he's fighting a VoteNBK who is 2-0-1 after that earlier engagement. Backwards and forwards in this duo.
Very important that Qiwen made that rotation and came over to the right-hand side. If it wasn't for that Janus, if it wasn't for that Geb shield, I don't know if Janus gets out of there. I think Team Dignitas stays aggressive and see, as you can tell, Team Dignitas still in the jungle.
Third speed buff taken already by Team Dignitas, keeping the pressure on the jungler, trying to keep the jungler and the solo laner pinned down.
Exactly. Covertactican is the substitute, and we talked about the metagame of keeping the substitute, keeping attention onto the substitute. Bear in mind, Xephyr is out of position. Xephyr is a natural solo laner, and I'm sure he plays jungle proficiently as most players play multiple roles.
Zephyr is the jungler for the team. It was the role switch that messed up. So Zephyr, yeah, he is normally in the jungle. But you're right, though. Focusing on to Covertactican is a really good call. The only thing is that if you notice what he's done so far, he's 2-3-3. He's gone for the defensive build. Divine, it's good.
Right. What I was getting at is the jungler relationship with your other lanes is so important. So when you're on the right side of the map trying to do what you can, the things that Xephyr expects out of his usual natural solo laner, it's a lot different than Covertactican may or may not be able to deliver. So when Zephyr's over there defending his speed buff or trying to make things happen, what he's used to seeing, the response he's used to getting might not be there, or he might get a different one.
He's also with a Sylvanus, which is something you don't necessarily know too much how to play with.
Sure.
But they should have tested it in practice. They more than likely would have done. They're an SPL team. They should do. But looking at Dignitas, well, the SPL team on a rise right now, and they're looking for the goal for you and trying to find a pick on the way.
Pick is what Dignitas has on their mind. Stun will miss, and the Spirit Ball as well. So Team Dignitas
do get beads, though. They get the beads off of VoteNBK, which is quite important. Shame, though, it is beads 3, so it's going to be off cooldown more than likely unless they try to go for aggression again now. But it looks like they're just going to go back and farm out and push out these lanes one more time.
FrostiaK will pick up his speed buff. I'm sure Xephyr wonders what that feels like. I don't think Xephyr has gotten one past the original one.
I'll talk about now. He's going to get taunted as well. Good shield from Qiwen. Eagles rally used as well. Portly's good onto Shadownightmare. He's in a lot of trouble there, but the circle of protection will keep him alive for a moment for VoteNBK now on a killing spree.
Ultimate came out from Janus as well, so through space and time is down. But JusTus, they're all local anywhere. They're not going to need the transport anytime soon. VoteNBK gets landed on by a Freya, a Thor, and an Athena. FrostiaK with final credit on that. Qiwen getting in some trouble as well. Ren's pulsing, but now he's disarmed. That's the credit of Bellona. Super important. Variety picks up Qiwen. Pull out a Covertactican, but he might have made the wrong move as Variety kills him for the better half of the double kill.
Covertactican was trying to turn that one around and pick up the kill onto Ren's, but good body blocking for Variety as we follow FrostiaK picking up the kill in mid lane. And Frezzy, well, he's surrounded right now by Xephyr, but look at this, the goal for you is still being done. He was doing zoning work and a good conviction heals him back up.
Zephyr's ultimate is down, and so is his life. FrostiaK and Ren's combined for that kill, and now Team Dignitas can pick up the Gold Fury, no problem. Ladies and gentlemen, let's take a look at the graphs after that one. 16 minutes in, 5,800 gold on the side of Team Dignitas, 14-6. And as Cineman said earlier, this is a much different team than we're used to seeing.
These graphs as well, if you look at them, we have seen signs of life out of JusTus too, in fairness. The dips back down again. Dignitas were in a good swing, but JusTus responded a couple of times, but not enough to ever take this lead away from Dig.
Dignitas has just been, they've been getting 1 and 2 more objectives after all the fights. JusTus get counterfights. Team Dignitas go aggressive, and JusTus will come in and get a pick or 2 or 3, right? There's 6 total kills on the board. Team Dignitas, on the other hand, they'll get a bunch of kills and then get a tower or a Gold Fury or a tower or another kill. We're seeing the response to afterwards be bigger than Team Dignitas because they're able to take more of a chunk at a time.
Well, it's also where the wealth is shared in terms of kills as well. I mean, there's only been 6 on JusTus, but look at where the wealth is as we tune in with Variety getting defensively protected there. But look at where the wealth is on the side of Dignitas. The ones that you want the kills have them apart from iRens, he's the only one that's not getting that. The other side, VoteNBK, he's got some of them, but we would have liked to see them on Fexez instead of this Sylvanus. Maybe instead of this Bellona as well.
Team Dignitas can't complain about the wealth. 6-1 and 8 on their jungler, Thor. As we said, Thor can do a lot of things. If you let him get behind, he can control and stun and stuff. But when you have a Thor ahead like this, especially going the build, boots Jotuns right into Transcendence, Thor becomes a Wrath of Terror. He's just so dynamic and able to bring so much damage that he becomes a just pure assassin, as his class would tell you.
I mean, FrostiaK, for the most part, for me, his two best gods are Thor and Ratatosk. They're the two that I've seen him on that he's performed the best.
Where's Ymir? Where's Ymir?
His Ymir, to be fair, it wasn't as good as it could be. I've seen him, his blinks and things. He's probably like third. I'm not going to say he's like really far down, but for me, it's always been Thor. Ratatosk is the ones that he really goes off on, especially because the meta changes from seeing these Guardian supports from the most part.
FrezzOO, our guardian of choice right now, going to follow up and meet up with FrostiaK.
FrezzOO, 0010 right now. He's playing a lot of aggression. He's finding his stride again, which I said earlier. It's like the mortality days for him again. He's starting to gel with the team a little bit more and not necessarily getting cut out of position as much and making the plays.
Athena does have the blink, so if she wanted to blink over the wall to go on to VoteNBK, that would be available. Team Dignitas changed their mind, call it audible, and will instead wind up just facing front to the Hunter in the long lane. And JusTus will respond and bring their jungler here, so it's 3v3.
Well, that's the thing is about responding. JusTus are now on the defensive way too much this game. You can see the Banish landing onto Apollo there. He's getting support from his team, but through space and time comes out. Great spirit bot from Shadow. Hey, Fexez, get out of here, son.
Love the change of target coming out from Shadownightmare. He was all ready to go on the left-hand side, but as soon as through space and time came, waited on the outside of that door. Now it's an all-out fight. Spirit Ball's going to stun from a mile away. Covertactican takes damage, and Shadownightmare takes him down. FrostiaK taken out by VoteNBK before he can deal that damage that he's got so much of on a line. And Team Dignitas, they'll go past the tower, but they won't get more than just a single kill. 1-for-1 trade.
Not as much as they would have liked out of that, really. I mean, they're going to try and say, blink in. No, from Frezzzy, going to get a big taunt off. And Renz's damage is good alongside Shadownightmare. The wingless Renz may fall in trade. No, he will get out of dodge with a good banish. And now Xephyr will fall down to Shadownightmare as well. Good to, I was about to say, they didn't get anything out of it. Right. But Frezzzy goes in again.
And I love, again, we're talking about the stuff after the stuff here with respect to Team Dignitas. They forced the red buff, Hindu man, right in between. There was a small reprieve in between the reinitiate from Frezzzy. In that small window of time, Dignitas knew that they could not waste any moment, and they go directly for the red buff. They go ahead, go back in, and kill some extra players, which gives them the space to take out a tower. Team Dignitas, lacking a natural hunter, won't actually have fierce tower damage, so they need a lot more space than usual to take out these towers.
Well, Fexez on half health here, going to get healed up by the Wisps. He was considering going back to base, but they can't give up a tier 2 tower for free on this left-hand side. You can see Team Dignitas are like holding formation, waiting for the minion wave and trying to find a pick, but they're without FrostiaK here, so it's wise to back off while he's doing the speed.
Team Dignitas going to find themselves in the jungle. Gold Fury will be spawning soon. Guan will back, but the team stays around this location. Qiwen finds 2. Looking for more. Here's Covertactican. Taunt will stop the immediate ultimate. And now looks like Shadownightmare is here for Frezzzy, but Frezzzy all by himself because the stun misses out of the mid laner. Up down from the solo laner and Xephyr. VoteNBK gets a double.
VoteNBK is important to this team as Covertactican does fall. Valkyrie's discretion is used by Rens. He's chasing in, looking for Xephyr as well. The portal closes behind him. The shield will wear off soon, but luckily the wall will block those shots from Pulse, but the banish will be stopping him.
And that's that. Rens cleans up a target, and maybe a misplay coming out from Janus. Walks through his own portal and leaves. Sure, the Geb shield saved his life a little bit.
I can't call it a misplay, man. You got to keep yourself survived.
I think we might have seen Xephyr get out of there, no problem.
One of the big keys, survive yourself before anything else. But FrostiaK did take tier 2 and now pressuring on the backside in the mid alongside Rens. And they're going to find the tier 2 in mid lane as well now.
Tier 2's going down. That'll add 1,500 gold to the lead of Team Dignitas. They'll slink back. Gold Fury has spawned, but it looks like Team Dignitas have other plans in mind.
And that was another fight once again in Dignitas' favor. JusTus found Frezzzy out of position. They collapsed on him. They made the decent play to pick him up, but it invested too much time. They took too long to bring him down, and it allowed Dignitas to reinforce and completely switch the fight and win based on objectives getting taken, and now a Gold Fury 2.
22 minutes in here, folks. Team Dignitas looking like one of the best days that they've had thus far through the fall split. 58,000 gold for them, 45 for JusTus, over a 5-digit gold lead here in our second European match of the day.
They're making a big play for variety here, but he's got the cavalry charge and Athena coming in too, and maybe,
problem.
just maybe, they'll turn this one around again.
3-on-1, variety goes right on in, and Team Dignitas prevent the exit from JusTus as FrostiaK lands on the back line. Xephyr walled off, going to have to use the ultimate to get out as he's creeping again. Covertactican pulls FrostiaK out of the bludgeon damage. There's a stun from Shadow. There's a hit from Variety. Covertactican falls.
He does fall down. You can see now the pressure once again from Dignitas, looking for the Phoenix in the mid lane. VoteNBK actually just basing there. He's trying to get into a decent position to defend instead of just walking all the way back. But the Phoenix will already fall down, and Dignitas extend their lead in this map control they've got.
Huge lead. 21 kills to 9 right now, Hindu. JusTus has just not, like we said earlier, they've been able to slightly respond. And they've been making good plays and getting intelligent picks. But the problem for JusTus is that the responses that they have to Team Dignitas aren't large enough.
Let's look over at the lanes though. We see Covertactican, the solo laner, been camped all game. Fexez been shut down by CC all the time, so he's 0-3-6. The only player on this team at JusTus that's had a good game has been VoteNBK. He's got a great slash line. Right. He's involved in the fights. He knows when to get out. He's not been picked too much. It's an upswing for JusTus, but it's not enough. Exactly.
Not enough is the gist of it, essentially. Team Dignitas gets 2 kills in a tower and a bunch of jungle camps, and JusTus responds by getting 2 kills, and that's it. Team Dignitas goes ahead, takes out 4, and a Phoenix, or a tower rather, and a Fire Giant, and JusTus, they don't respond equally. And that's the issue for JusTus. They're seeing some upside, but not enough to really match what Dignitas is able to bring out.
Now, a lot of people maybe look at this going, why did they pick Sylvanus in the solo lane? Now, I spoke to Ataraxia about it, he's mentioned it. To be fair, he's been involved in all 9 of the kills that JusTus have had to begin with. On top of the fact that Ataraxia was saying, what's one of the easiest abilities that can turn a team fight completely? Well, Wrath of Terror can. And it can deal a lot of damage alongside Wisps too. And it's even easier to confirm than a Kraken, as a lot of what Ataraxia himself has said. So, JusTus taking a page out of their book, testing it out in this game. It's not an awful pick, it's just very unusual and strange to look at.
Yeah, I actually like what the Sylvanus has brought to the table, and right now, Qiwen's going to put himself on the table. Blinking in, stunning 2, but taking himself down. Shadownightmare gets credit for 2 as he takes down both Guardians in one fell swoop. FrostiaK's up in the air looking for more.
Does down.
Is good. And down comes Shadownightmare. Not a triple, but that's the 3rd kill of this engagement.
And all the members of Dignitas still alive, and there's only 2 remaining. Xephyr and VoteNBK starting their fountain right now as the 2nd Phoenix falls down, and it looks like Dignitas, they're looking for the end right now.
Dignitas going directly for the Titan. That ward there, the intent of that ward is to just protect the Titan from 1 or 2, well, actually 3 extra basic attacks. By putting that there, just another body to take some shots, but it proves fruitless as the Titan falls. Team Dignitas take game 1 with fervor.
Absolute clinic from Dignitas there from beginning to end, honestly. They made 1 or 2 missteps, but I don't think it was necessarily missteps. It was more JusTus coming back very, very well and making the correct decisions in terms of re-engaging.
Yeah, as we said, JusTus made some of the right moves and made intelligent decisions. They just weren't as drastic as what Team Dignitas was able to take out. And it all started in the jungle. FrostiaK on the Thor looked very strong from the very beginning. He's going to be the player that picks up the first kill.
And looking at the rookie player, they're trying to gank him, and it's not a surprise to see you look to do this, especially in the current meta as well, where junglers are camping the solo lane a little bit more often. He's a tanky target, is Sylvanus, but when you've got a Guan who shreds protections alongside a Thor, he's still not going to take too long.
Yeah, that was very early on. What was that? A couple of seconds.
He was level 4,
minute 3. No ultimate even online for Thor, so very early on, it was obvious that Team Dignitas wanted to pay attention to that solo lane Sylvanus. And the first blood player, FrostiaK, is, well, the rest of the game went similarly, 7, 2, and 14. The slash line on the jungler looking very good.
Good kill involvement for him overall. He was good, 49 points as well in the alpha draft. Pretty good game from him today. Generally, when he does have games, it's normally on Thor. It's normally on Ratatoska, as we've said before. But, I mean, as this is gone, Dignitas are just looking like a different team than the first half of this split. I keep saying it because it's true.
Yeah, as you said, I mean, you broke it down before. They had 1 win separated by 4 losses, 1 win separated by 4 losses. Dignitas did very well in their last match that we've seen them play. And again, since the announcement that Super Regionals has changed, I mean, we spoke to iRens and we talked to another member of the squad. It's a different feeling on that team, and that's why we're seeing a higher level of play come out from the guys for Team Dignitas.
And it's good heading into this because if they keep this climb going too, we're talking about them contesting for 6th position to get themselves to LAN. Well, they can make a run to get themselves a little bit higher up, which will give them better standing at the LAN, where they don't have to face off against the number 1 or 2 seeds straight away and keep away from the bigger boys.
Team Dignitas going to try and get even closer to the bigger boys by making this one a 2-0. We'll see if